I had literally just cracked my double overtime beverage here.
I
Like
got my
effect
plate
cider,
of
by
food
the
right
way.
beside me here that I cannot eat.
And boom, it's over. Tristan Jarry's turnover inexplicably up the middle of the ice. Not even sure who he was passing to. Well, it was Josh Bailey who he was passing to, and the Islanders forward one deke, and it's in the back of the net, and the Penguins lose in utterly heartbreaking fashion. 3-2 in Game 5. They now trail the series for the second time in this first round matchup, 3-2. And boy, Alan, I was just saying before we went on the air, it's tough to analyze that one. Don't do that. If you're Tristan Jarry, who I thought played pretty well, honestly, didn't play as well as Ilya Sorokin at the other end, but anticlimactic to say the least. After the Penguins played, I don't think it's controversial to say their best game of the series.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Sorokin has been the better goaltender, and I think that's been the crux of the issue in the 3 games that he's played, is that he's outplayed Jarry every time he's been on the ice. I don't think Jarry was exceptionally bad or anything like that. I thought he was maybe a tick below average or pretty well much what we've expected from him, what he's done most of the season. You can't do that, obviously, in overtime or at any point. And honestly, I thought a bit of a lazy play by Evgeny Malkin, didn't really make any effort to get back to the puck, just kind of let it go all the way back to his goaltender, which set up Jarry having to make that play. But, yeah, I mean, Mike Matheson was right there and had a pretty fair and easy outlet to make that he didn't take, and the simple play is what is going to win it for you in overtime more often than not.
As Gaming with Geo reminds me on YouTube, yes, the comments are open, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of those tonight, mostly of the angry variety. All 3 Islanders' goals were direct results of turnovers, and a night when the Penguins had most of the puck, that makes sense because the Isles didn't really generate much of anything on their own, and even a couple of times they did, Jordan Eberle with a partial break in overtime, you can really count them on one hand, less than one hand's worth of fingers. There really wasn't much to speak of from the Islanders' perspective, and I quipped midway through the game that it looks like Matthew Barzal is playing 1 versus 5 when he's out there too. But it doesn't matter in the end, at least in terms of the result. The Penguins have every right to be up 3-2 in this series at least, and here they are, trailing and facing elimination, going back to their favorite barn, the Nassau Coliseum, in a couple of nights. I thought Malkin was emblematic of the night. Alan, I want to start there because he had some dynamic plays. I think we're starting to see his legs get back under him for sure. He also had 1 or 2 egregious misplays and, pretty much ended up even up on the night if I had to do the accounting. Scored a goal, of course, a power play goal. The Penguins got a goal from their first line, too. We'll get to that in a moment. But my lead going into overtime, at least, was that Malkin appeared to be awakening, but at the same time, it was still the full Evgeny Malkin experience.
Yeah, well, we didn't see the boneheaded stuff that we saw in Game 4, and I think that was something the Penguins obviously needed to correct. They couldn't let the Islanders to continue to get under their skin and to get them off their game. I don't think we saw any of that in this game from Evgeny Malkin or anybody else. I thought the Penguins did a really good job of playing within themselves and sticking to the system for the most part. I mean, it's really hard to say this when you lose what is let's not minimize. This is a crippling loss for the Penguins. They have not been good on the road. They will now need to go win on the road. This was a game they absolutely needed to win, but as a team, they played better. They just got out goaltended, and so I think Evgeny Malkin still not to where he has shown he's been, but I thought he drove play. I thought he was fairly responsible defensively. He did take a penalty, but it was a hockey play, a hook on Nick Leddy, I think it was, coming into back checking, which if Evgeny Malkin's in that position, I think you feel okay about where he's at. I don't know. I think in general, it's going to be hard to nitpick performances from the Penguins skaters in this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that at all, honestly. I know that Jake Gensel still hasn't scored in a while, but like I said, the first line got on the board. The Penguins were relentless, shift after shift. The second period was as good of a period as I've seen them play since they won the Cup. Maybe not even the most recent Cup, maybe the Cup in 2016 when they were a possession monster, and it felt inevitable in each and every series. Well, now they're in a position they were in that Eastern Conference final, which has some tinges of this one, that matchup against the Lightning in 2016 I'm talking about, where there was a young Russian goalie in the other net. Now the Lightning were more talented. This Islanders team it seems like they're just trying to hang on, and play as low event as possible. But Alan, they didn't even succeed at that tonight. They gave up 40+ shots in regulation. I said midway through the game as well, aren't the Islanders supposed to be good at playing defense? Because they're not right now. Honestly, it's a miracle they are where they are, I think. Or maybe it's just goaltending and the fact that the Penguins didn't show up in Game 4. I know you had the post-game show on Saturday. It's a funny thing, when you play a best-of-7 series and you give away one where you don't even really come to play, and it makes things a lot more difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially when, this is a team that doesn't give up the lead once it gets it. And the Penguins, I thought, really needed the first goal tonight after that performance, and they got it, and they gave the lead back twice, but I don't really think through much of any fault of their own. This was a well-played game by the Penguins. They did exactly what they need to do to beat this team, except put the puck in the net. And let's give a lot of credit where it's due to Ilya Sorokin. He's playing out of his mind. I haven't seen an updated save percentage for him on the season, but it's well north of 940. This is historic type of goaltending that the Islanders are getting right now. And I don't even think it's not in some of these games. I think the Islanders have done a fair job of keeping the Penguins outside. I don't think that was the case tonight at all. The Penguins had, according to Natural Stat Trick, 14 high danger scoring chances, and they only conceded 4. 14-4, and you lose the game.
Great. Yeah.
I don't know what else you can ask for besides better goaltending or better luck.
The hard part is Casey DeSmith isn't even available, or at least I don't think he is. He didn't make the trip to New York last week, so part of the brilliance of the roster construction here, the good stuff, was that the Penguins had a couple of goalies who had been serviceable at the very least in the regular season. But who knows about DeSmith? You're not going to go to Lagacé in the elimination game, so it's on Jarry to rebound from that. And in the strictly goaltending sense, he's been good since Game 1. He just hasn't been as good as the other guy, or at least the younger of the two Russian netminders that the Islanders have employed here. Penguins lose 3-2, as you probably realize, in the second overtime, first minute of the second OT. But you know what? Psychologically speaking, that's going to be a difficult one to overcome for a guy who's trying to make a name for himself in the NHL. Still, I realize he was an all-star last year. This isn't his first rodeo just stepping on NHL ice. But at the same time, the playoffs can be a different animal, especially mentally. So we're going to find out a lot about Tristan Jarry's resilience and, to use a Mike Sullivanism, his stick-to-itiveness for Game 6 on Wednesday night on the island. The first line was better than we've seen it in a little while here, Alan, so let's go there, because I don't really have that many negatives, honestly. It feels like a win recap right now, at least in my mind, as I try to sort things out. But we saw a lot more from Brian Rust. He looked as assertive as ever here in this one. And Jake Gensel was inches away a couple of times from converting. So I feel like Sid's played a good series overall, and I think he raised his level again here tonight. Just wasn't enough, but at the very least for me, if I'm Mike Sullivan, I say, all right, I'm not going to touch the forward lines. I'm not going to touch the lineup here. There's no need to do anything personnel-wise when it comes to changing things up.
Yeah, I don't even know, what players could you say had a bad game on the Penguins? I don't know. That's generally where you start, right? Which guy is not holding up his end of the deal? Maybe Jason Zucker, I don't think has been particularly good since Evgeny Malkin's been back and he's been playing in a somewhat elevated role. I'm not sure his play has totally come up with that, but I look here at his 71% Corsi 4 and 75% Fenwick. Some video game numbers there, but they're not getting I don't think they're getting the scoring chances from him that they think or maybe thought that they would when they traded a first round pick for him. But I don't think he's been bad either. He's just maybe not lived up to the expectations that he was acquired in. I really think I don't know how you change the lines to make it any better. If you could get this performance again, you would want it. So I don't know what you would go about changing. I didn't think Brandon Tanev was his best in this game either. He wasn't particularly effective at 5-on-5. They never really got a ton of cycle with that line, and then he moved lines, and I don't think that helped him either. But that's really so. I don't know how you would change it significantly. I think the Penguins have to go with the guys that brought them here. I do think that if you're going to want to find some criticism, I'm not sure that Tristan Jarry's performance in the postseason, taken as a whole, I think obviously this last goal against is shocking and unexpected. A goalie that's really good at playing the puck. One of his strengths,
that's his strength.
So certainly that's unexpected. But I think I look at his overall game through 5 games of this series. He's been about the guy he was in the regular season, which is to say, not that good. I mean, I think he finished the regular season 29th in save percentage. They needed more from him than they were getting in the regular season to really, truly be able to make a run towards the Stanley Cup. And sort of, taking this goal aside, in the big picture, they're still not getting that. They're still not getting better than about 9-10 save percentage goaltending from Tristan Jarry, and that's just not going to get it done. Even with a team as skilled as the Penguins are on offense, the low event nature of the playoffs makes it too easy for teams to clog things up, and you just can't get out goaltended by 50 points right now, which is about what the Penguins are facing in the difference between Sorokin and Jarry. And so if you want to levy some criticism at Pittsburgh, and this is really more towards, a Ron Hextall than a Mike Sullivan, but, maybe this is a position that needed addressing before the playoffs got here. This is pretty much the same guy we've seen Tristan Jarry be all season to this point.
And in their defense, the injury to Casey DeSmith happened very late in the season. So that popped up. That made things interesting because as of 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the regular season, I was thinking it was a toss-up as to who you start in game 1. I guess you just go with the hotter guy, and Jarry was the hotter guy, and then DeSmith got injured too to make it an easier decision for Mike Sullivan. Mike Osti is posting some post-game comments here in the live feed. From Chris Letang, he says, you shake it off and you have to bring your A game for the next one. It's a team game. It's nobody's fault. We win as a team and lose as a team. What you'd expect from Chris Letang, protecting his younger teammate and always protecting goalies. That seems to be the idea. No one's ever going to say, yeah, our goalie really handed that one away, or at least not in this era, maybe in a previous era of a little more candor. Chris Letang, I thought his conditioning was on display. Alan, he had a brilliant overtime. I felt like first overtime. We didn't see much of the second overtime. And I feel like that game 4 meltdown aside, where he just lost his cool and didn't play a very mature game, he's been excellent in this series too. And it's been mostly a continuation of what we saw in the regular year. He's actually taken it up a level. He's looking more dynamic in the playoffs. I thought he was more conservative than we've seen him in recent years. And you know what? He did get caught up ice on the first goal by the Penguins, but the Pens had 3 guys, or first goal by the Islanders, but the Penguins had 3 guys back ahead of Letang, and none of them looked very interested in defending Anthony Beauvillier. So I don't know if I really pin that on him. He had coverage, just not very enthusiastic coverage for his pinch up the ice. But that's a promising sign for me too. It's funny. I look at the 5 games of this series and I say most of the developments have been positive here, but they trail in the series.
Yeah, I think Chris Letang's overtime, that one shift when he was out there with the Crosby line, and he was literally all over the ice. He starts the play standing right next to Tristan Jarry, then in the offensive zone, cycled all the way back around to he's a right D. He comes through all the way back around to the left half wall, standing there next to Kasperi Kapanen, and keeps it at the line. He's done some incredible things in this series, and it's so impressive. He's not a young guy. And I look down after that shift, and he's crossing 33 minutes of ice time in the game at that point. That's just insane to see guys doing that at this stage of his career, that long into a game. He's incredible.
Comment from Christian here talking about Marcus Pettersson. Yeah, he'd be the guy, I guess, that would, on the blue line at least, make me the most nervous when he has the puck if I were a Penguins fan trying to guide this thing through overtime, especially. You find out who you have confidence in and who you don't in overtime, I think. And I agree with that on Pettersson. He has looked skittish. Matheson looked skittish early in the series, but I think he's found himself too. And I was really impressed by his one-on-one puck battles that he won over and over again late in that third period to at least get this thing into OT. So my fanboy credentials on Mike Matheson are restored. I was a little nervous about his first game or so, but you know what? He's playing with that face shield for the first time in a while since college, so I'll give him a bit of a break. And if I do look at that blue line, I try to see, okay, who's expendable, who might not be back next year if they try to make some sort of a move. I think Marcus Pettersson has been at the top of my list all season long. Just pretty unremarkable. And you talk about Jason Zucker disappointing. I think Marcus Pettersson, since he got that extension, hasn't shown me a lot. Again, we're nitpicking here, Alan, but I do want to make note of that because I think the comment was on point.
Yeah, I think he's the one guy. And I think that pairing of him and Marino has played collectively a good bit below expectations for a while now, not just in this series. And I'm not sure which guy I want to put it on. I think Pettersson looks obviously shakier with the puck and less confident, but that's not really ever been his thing anyway. He's more of a stable guy, a good skater, but not a great puck distributor. I would obviously you're not going to do this, but with the Penguins, eyeing some off-season moves, I'd have been interested to see how those two guys did split up from each other a little bit this year. They played a lot together because I'm not sure either of them is really playing very well right now. And I'm not sure where that blame mostly falls when you break down how that pair interacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been nonplussed by the two of them overall, and maybe it is a chemistry thing. Maybe they don't complement each other as well as the Penguins thought. But I don't think you're going to break up Dumoulin and Letang, and they have shown an ability to lift each other's game, and Letang lifting more than Dumoulin, but Dumoulin has been a nice fit alongside Chris Letang, I would say.
Oh, sure.
They do complement each other, so I wouldn't want to bump a guy up. Maybe you bump a guy down, I suppose. That would be the other alternative there. This is Pittsburgh Postgame on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Yes, the comments continue to flow in. Islanders fans in the comments. Oh boy,
we let Stefan Rosner in once, and now he brings all this mock and drag with him. I'm teasing. Thanks for coming to watch. And if this series goes on, maybe we'll have Stefan on again. But welcome, come one, come all, and we'll tolerate your presence here.
Outside of the Let's Go Islanders stuff and that they're making a run for the cup, apparently, we do have something on an Islanders fan who was nervous about facing the Penguins. Shane Hanley says hello. The fact that he thought it wasn't going to be an easy go for the Islanders. I thought it was a pretty good matchup for the Penguins, relatively speaking. I think Capitals might have been my most preferred matchup. Bruins, my least preferred. Islanders, somewhere in the middle. The two teams played close games all year, Alan. It's not like the Penguins blew out the Isles, even though they won the season series, I think 5-3 or something along those lines. A couple of OT decisions mixed in there too. So I felt okay about it. I thought that they could eventually outclass them and break the door down. I didn't necessarily see a surge from a guy like Sorokin. Honestly, I thought we'd see Varlamov throughout the series, but he's been the lesser of the two goalies. So Barry Trotz has made the right move here, at least in the last two games, I think. How did you feel about this series coming in? Not sure I asked that of you on last week after game 2.
I thought this was a coin flip. I didn't really think that any of these series in the East were anything other than a coin flip. The teams are too evenly matched. They're all capable of being very good. I think the Bruins are probably the most talented and most complete of the four teams, and the team that I think the Penguins match up the worst against. But I mean, I figured this would be a 6 or 7 game series. Obviously, it will be at least 6. But I won't be particularly surprised if you'd have told me that the Penguins are going to come in here and play the Islanders, and through 5 games the Islanders would have a team save percentage, or a goalie with a save percentage of .950 something. I would be surprised that they're still playing. I mean, these teams are closely matched. And if you get goaltending that lopsided one direction, it's really, really hard to overcome.
We have a comment also from Christian again asking about P.O. Joseph. He is available. He's on the Penguins roster. So I loved him early in the season. I realized that it's going to be difficult to ask him to perform at that level coming into the playoffs against an Islanders team that, well, at least I thought they were better defensively than most. But I'm not sure that has really checked out. So maybe there is more room to work with if you are Pierre-Olivier. And he's certainly more interesting and has more of an upside than Marcus Pettersson at this point. And yeah, so if you're talking lineup changes, maybe there's that. I did agree with you on Zucker underperforming. I'm very disappointed that he passed up on that shot when he had Sorokin down. I know there were bodies in front of the net. That might have been the second period, I want to say. Could have made it 3-1. But he tries to make some pass to the slot. Kasperi Kapanen was seen on camera shaking his head after that. Kapanen played well. Malkin played well. I think Zucker was a bit of a boat anchor on that line. I know you mentioned his possession numbers were up there, but yeah, I've stood up for Jason Zucker over and over again, and I continue to be disappointed for the most part. He's supposed to be shooting the puck. He's supposed to look at a guy like Jeff Carter and say, hey, that's what I'm supposed to do. And Zucker has the track record too, so I'm not sure why he got skittish in that moment, if he overthought it. I don't know what's going on, because he's on that line to score. He's on any line to score. That's what he was brought in to do. So that's my that's my bit of a rant on Zucker, who I find most of the times in the right positions and is giving you a good effort. But for him, the puck's got to go in because he's not a setup guy. He typically has more goals than assists on the season, no matter what season you're looking at. And, there are roles for players, and he doesn't appear to be fitting it right now.
Yeah, and, that was interesting because they were playing so well without Evgeny Malkin in the lineup. And one of the things that coincided with that was that Jason Zucker moved way down the lineup. And so now, not only is Malkin back, and yes, I mean, no one's going to say having Malkin back could possibly be a negative, but it does change the minutes distribution for a lot of other guys if you're not going to blow up the lines when Malkin comes back. And that's what Mike Sullivan did. He didn't blow up the lines. He put Zucker back with Malkin and just elevated them. But I think we saw Tanev with Malkin a little bit here in overtime. Maybe if you're going to make a lineup change amongst the forwards, that's it, to find a better pairing for Evgeny Malkin, guys that you want to give more minutes to. But, I mean, this is a really, really well-played game by the Penguins forward and defense group. And, I think the Penguins have to feel frustrated by the loss, but I think, as a fan, I think this loss hurts, right? You lose in double overtime, and it's on a just purely, truly stupid play. And it's like your heart gets shot out of you. But as a team, give me this over game 4, over an uncompetitive performance where you weren't playing your game, your head wasn't in it. Like, this is the Penguins doing what they needed to do. They just lost. And I think it's much easier to sit here and face back-to-back potentially must-win games, playing maybe your best game of the series as a team, if they can get a better performance from Tristan Jarry, or maybe just get Ilya Sorokin to play like a normal goaltender instead of Superman over there.
Berger reminds me that the Penguins had over 50 shots. He's tweaking me a bit for getting on Jason Zucker. It was a half open net, all right? You should shoot the puck. I don't care if you have 100 shots in the game. But Berger's making some good points, too. There was that redirect from Freddie Gaudreau on the point shot that just hit Ilya Sorokin in the foot. He was standing up looking for that puck, and it went low. And that's the way it goes sometimes. So to be clear, again, if you're just joining us right now, we are very positive about the Penguins' performance here. The only negative was the result and how it went down. There were a couple of defensive lapses. Maybe you hope you get an outstanding save from one of those too, but I'm not even that down on Jarry's goaltending performance. Just his decision-making process on that overtime play was clearly lacking here. So you look ahead to game 6. The problem for me too, Alan, was the ice was so terrible in game 4 out there. I'm hoping the fact this is a night game mitigates that a little bit. Maybe it's not quite as hot on Long Island. It's an old barn,
it's
leaky
supposed to cool
facility.
Down this weekend too. I saw highs in the 60s only, so that'll be better.
Yeah, that plays into the Isles' hands to have it be an affair where the puck's bouncing around. It was bouncing tonight at PPG Paints, and they typically do a pretty good job the last 3 or 4 years in making that ice sheet as good as it can be. It's a humid day. They can only do so much. So my expectations are lower at the end of May than they are at the end of February. At the same time, it's going to be a slog there in Game 6. And I think if you're the Pens, you have to hope to score early. And Obviously, that's the formula to success against a team like the Isles that is more comfortable letting the other team come to them, as we saw tonight. At the same time, though, it is concerning. The Penguins have now blown, well, how many leads in this series? At least 3. They blew a lead in game 1. They blew a lead in game 3, eventually winning it, and they blew a lead in game 5. So that part of it has gone against convention, hasn't it? Because I thought if they could just play from ahead, the Penguins could be in a really good position to make this even a short series. They have played from ahead outside of game 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. I think this is a Penguins team that's not. That's actually one of the really impressive things to me about game 2 was how well they played from ahead in that game. I'm not sure that's really their bread and butter. They want to trade chances with teams, which is not what you're being coached to do when you have a 1-goal lead in a playoff game. But that is sort of their instinct, is to just go and go up and down. And I think the problem with that against this Islanders team is the Islanders are really good at defending them. Even when you're trading chances, they get guys back. I don't know. I think stylistically, I think the Penguins have played pretty well, all except for game 4. I just think, honestly, I really do think outside of game 2, where I think the Penguins really dominated and honestly could have been far more lopsided than it was. But I really think in every other game, it's really come down to the goaltending. I mean, I hate to say that, and it's not been all negative. It's been one guy lets his team down or the other guy steals the game. And one way or the other, I really do think in games 1, 3, 4, and 5, it's been about the goaltending. The Avs did not get, or the Owls did not get good goaltending from Varlamov. The Penguins haven't gotten great or consistent goaltending from Jarry, and Sorokin has been outstanding. I mean, that's the difference in goaltending has been more than enough to overcome, I think, the Penguins' advantage in ability and in the way the goals of the game have fallen for the most part, except for game 4, where they've been playing even or with a lead almost the entire series. They outside of game 4, they've hardly trailed at all. And so, I don't know. I just think the goaltending has been too much for that other stuff to matter.
Our friend Jared Wickerham comments on Facebook. He says, I now know what to do with all my credentials. Use them as wallpaper. You see Alan's backdrop. It's something to see there. You got a nice variety, too. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I tried to get a good mix in there. Got some pens up there. Not too many. I haven't covered a lot of hockey recently.
I want to make sure I get to everybody here who made a comment trying to be productive and add to the conversation. I don't know if I'll get to everyone, but
there's a lot here.
Let's see here. Owen Krebs from RMU says Jake Gensel needs a hat trick next game. I think Jake would settle for 1. I do have an issue with folks who have been criticizing Gensel as being out-muscled in this series. Jake Gensel is out-muscled in every game. I mean, come on. He finds a way. That's what makes him great, is he finds the soft areas and absorbs punishment, gives out some of it once in a while. But for the most part, he slides through. He takes cross checks. He goes to high traffic areas despite being not very tall and not very wide, and he gets the job done. So I'm not sure he's playing terribly. I think tonight was a step in the right direction. He had a pretty sweet dangle in the second period that led to a great scoring chance. He had 1 or 2 also in the third as well. So he's getting more dangerous opportunities. A guy like him, he just needs 1 or 2 decent looks, in theory, at least. So I'm not worried about Jake Gensel. I'm not getting on him too much. Yes, he's paid to produce. He's a goal scorer, much like Jason Zucker, except a little bit more skilled in the arts of sniping. But I'm not going to fault his process at all. So if he wants to come through, it'd be a great time to do it now. But I don't know if I would look at this and say, well, Jake's definitely just not on his game right now.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen, like that Zucker play, the one you mentioned, it stood out to me too during the playoffs. Like Jason Zucker needs to shoot that puck. I'm not seeing things like that jump out at me in Jake Gensel's game right now, where I think he's making poor decisions. And other than that, it's just getting the shots to go in the net. I mean, we know he's physically capable, right? He's an extremely talented goal scorer, So, I mean, he's not even really historically super streaky. I mean, a little bit here and there. He's had some notable hot streaks over the years, but not crazy. Not to a level that you'd expect that from him. So, I don't know if he's making good decisions and he's got sound process. Then eventually the shots are going to start to go in. Unfortunately for the Penguins, they've only got one game left now where that needs to happen, or that's the end of it. That is the somewhat cruel nature of expectations over time, is that eventually you run out of time, and sometimes you don't get back to the mean as your numbers normalize. Chuck Clark, who, if it's the Chuck Clark I'm thinking of, is a long old friend of mine, asked, when's the last time you think a Penguins goaltender stole a game? I don't know about one game. There may have been a couple in there, but it's been a very long time since I saw a Penguins goaltender approach stealing a series like we're seeing Ilya Sorokin on the verge of doing for the Islanders. Maybe back to the 2016-17 run. I mean, it's been a very long time since we saw the Penguins have the kind of goaltending performance the Islanders are getting from Sorokin right now.
I'd say Marc-Andre Fleury, the Capitals series in 2017, he was outstanding there. Matt Murray in the Capitals series in 2016 was really good too. You could argue the Pens were on the short end of the play in both of those, but they got through. And Fleury's last real flourish here in Pittsburgh before he was moved on to Vegas. So yeah, it has been a while. And I will say this: there's a caveat to that, because the Penguins traditionally don't need a goalie to steal a game or a series. So the goalies aren't in a position to do that. They're not getting peppered like the Islanders got peppered tonight. So it's kind of a gift and a curse, right? Obviously, you'd rather have more shots and more chances, but that also gives the opposing goalie more of an opportunity to have a bigger influence on the game. They've hit a run of tough luck in a lot of ways. Maybe they could just shoot better. That's allowed too. Finish better. Brandon Tanev practically whiffed on that one-timer in the slot on the setup from Malkin in the first overtime. He's not a goal scorer, but I'd like to see him at least put that one on net. So there are moments there where the shooters can be better. I'm not saying it's all finishing luck, as is trendy to say in hockey these days. There's definitely some skill to it, and a guy like Jake Gensel has proven to have that skill. So perhaps it is his time.
I don't know. The Islanders got their game-tying goal tonight on what almost certainly must be described as luck, as Jordan Everly completely whiffs on his shot.
Yeah.
And then the puck stays right there with him and he scores. I mean, luck clearly does matter. But yeah, the Penguins have enough highly skilled players, and I think it should matter less for them. Just like the goaltending should matter less for them, this is a team that should be less dependent on waiting for their shooting percentage to come around. You know, this is a highly skilled team with not just skilled shooters, but skilled playmakers that get guys into dangerous scoring chances. Again, we go back, that 14-4 high danger chance. You've got to find a way to bury more of those. I think that's been a common thread for the Penguins throughout this series. Even those games, like Game 2, they dominated. It's a 2-1 win because they didn't take advantage of extra opportunities. Game 4, so the first half of Game 4, the Penguins were actually the better team before things really went off the rails, but they weren't able to score a goal, and then that's when things went sideways on them. So, yeah, I mean, I think, look, I want to give a lot of credit to Ilya Sorokin, but the Penguins, given the number of shots they've taken and the amount of time they've controlled the puck, they probably need to have more goals than they have right now in the series.
Yeah, I would agree. And we can leave it at that as we look forward to the first elimination game of the postseason. Again, it's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock start, I think, either 7 or 7:30. They've moved that around a little bit on me, but we'll be with you after that one, win or season over, on Pittsburgh Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Like and subscribe. It's been fun chatting with you. Thanks for all the comments. This is our best comment game of the short playoff run so far. Also our highest number of live viewers. So that's tremendous. Thank you so much, whether you accessed us via Twitter link or via Facebook link, or you got to us right there on the YouTube channel. And we're happy to bring it to you. And we do have at least one more of these coming up. Alan, thanks as always. Great to knock some ideas back and forth with you and try to make sense of what was a very nonsensical ending to this one, at least.
Yeah, we'll try to do better next time. And thanks everyone for joining us. Even the Islanders fans, we'll bring you along. Hopefully, yeah, 2 more of these.
We are not overly hostile, I don't think. If the comment's a good comment, we're going to definitely add it to the show. All right, for Alan, I'm Matt. We'll talk to you next time on Pittsburgh Postgame.